Have you ever wondered what happens when one of the most successful motocross bikes in history gets a complete redesign? Well, that's exactly what Yamaha has done with the all-new 2027 YZ250F. At first glance, it might look similar to last year's model. The signature blue plastics are still there, the aggressive race-ready stance remains, and the iconic YZ identity hasn't changed. But don't let the familiar appearance fool you, because underneath those plastics, Yamaha engineers have completely reworked some of the most important parts of this motorcycle. A redesigned engine, an updated aluminum frame inspired by the YZ250F, a new hydraulic clutch, revised KYB suspension, improved braking performance, and a long list of refinements aimed at making riders faster, more confident, and more consistent on every lap. So the big question is, has Yamaha finally built the perfect 250 cubic centimeter motocross machine? Or is there still room for improvement? Today, we're taking a deep dive into everything you need to know about the brand new 2027 Yamaha YZ250F, from its engine and performance to handling, suspension, technology, and whether it's actually worth buying over its biggest rivals. Let's get started. The Yamaha YZ250F has already earned a reputation as one of the most competitive bikes in the 250 motocross class. For years, professional racers and weekend riders alike have praised it for its balance between power, handling, and reliability. Instead of chasing outrageous horsepower numbers, Yamaha has always focused on building a motorcycle that's easier to ride fast. And surprisingly, that philosophy hasn't changed. Instead, Yamaha looked at every single area where riders wanted improvement and refined nearly everything. The biggest engineering changes begin with the engine. Although it's still powered by a 250 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled, four-stroke single-cylinder engine, Yamaha didn't simply carry over the previous design. The intake system has been revised for smoother airflow. The combustion process has been optimized. Internal engine refinements help improve throttle response, while maintaining the strong top-end power riders expect from a modern YZ250F. The result isn't necessarily a massive increase in peak horsepower. Instead, the power delivery feels more connected, more predictable, and significantly easier to control coming out of corners. That's exactly where races are won. Instead of fighting the motorcycle, riders can focus entirely on carrying momentum and choosing better lines. This smoother power delivery also helps reduce rider fatigue during longer motos. And for amateur riders, that's a much bigger advantage than simply adding another horsepower or two. One of the biggest highlights for 2027 is Yamaha's decision to equip the YZ250F with a hydraulic clutch. For years, riders have debated whether Yamaha should finally move away from its traditional cable-operated clutch. Now they've done it. The hydraulic system delivers a lighter clutch pull, more consistent engagement, and reduced maintenance over time. Whether you're launching off the starting gate or working through rough technical sections, the clutch engagement remains predictable throughout the ride. Professional racers will appreciate the consistency. Weekend riders will appreciate the reduced hand fatigue. It's a small change on paper, but on the track, it makes a surprisingly noticeable difference. And Yamaha didn't stop there. The transmission has also received refinements that improve shifting feel under aggressive riding conditions. Gear changes feel cleaner, more precise, and more confidence-inspiring when charging into corners at race pace. Already, it's becoming clear that the 2027 YZ250F isn't about chasing marketing numbers. It's about creating a motorcycle that works better everywhere. And this is only the beginning, because once we get to the chassis, suspension, and handling upgrades, things become even more impressive. Now, here's where things get really interesting. While the engine upgrades are impressive, Yamaha didn't stop there. Because in motocross, power means very little if the bike can't put that power to the ground. And that's exactly why the 2027 YZ250F receives one of its most significant chassis updates in years. Yamaha has redesigned the lightweight aluminum frame using lessons learned from the championship-winning YZ450F. The goal wasn't to make the bike stiffer. It was to make it smarter. Engineers carefully adjusted the frame's rigidity, allowing just the right amount of flex while increasing stability during aggressive riding. That might sound like a small technical detail, but on the track, it's a huge difference. As soon as you enter a corner, the motorcycle feels planted. It tracks through ruts with greater precision and remains composed even when the terrain becomes rough and unpredictable. High-speed sections feel noticeably more stable. Deep braking bumps are absorbed with greater confidence. And when accelerating out of corners, the bike stays balanced instead of feeling nervous or unsettled. This is exactly the kind of improvement professional racers notice immediately. But even beginner riders will benefit because the motorcycle inspires confidence rather than demanding perfection. And confidence is one of the biggest advantages any motocross bike can offer. Of course, a great frame is only part of the equation. Suspension plays an equally important role. For 2027, Yamaha continues using its highly respected KYB suspension system, but with updated internal settings designed specifically for the revised chassis. The front forks deliver a smoother initial stroke, helping the front wheel maintain traction over small bumps and braking chop. At the same time, the suspension resists bottoming during larger jumps and hard landings. Out back, the KYB rear shock has also been refined. The rear wheel tracks the ground more effectively, providing stronger traction when accelerating through rough corners. The overall balance between the front and rear suspension feels more natural than ever before. Instead of constantly correcting the motorcycle, riders can focus entirely on carrying speed. And that's exactly what makes this bike so fast. It doesn't force you to fight it. It helps you ride better. Another area Yamaha focused on is braking performance. The front brake has been updated with improved feel and stronger stopping power. Instead of grabbing aggressively, the braking response is progressive and easy to control. This allows riders to brake later before corners while maintaining confidence. The rear brake also provides better modulation, making it easier to control slides when entering tight turns. Together, these improvements give the YZ250F a more predictable feel under hard braking conditions. Comfort also received attention. Yamaha redesigned several body panels to create a slimmer riding position. The seat, side covers, and fuel tank flow together more naturally, allowing riders to move around the motorcycle with less effort. Whether you're shifting your weight forward for corner entry or sliding toward the rear during acceleration, body movement feels smoother and more natural. Professional racers may only gain a fraction of a second per lap from these changes. But over a full race, those fractions quickly become meaningful. One feature that continues to separate Yamaha from many competitors is technology. The 2027 YZ250F still includes Yamaha's Power Tuner app. And honestly, this remains one of the best free tuning systems available on any production motocross motorcycle. Using nothing more than your smartphone, you can adjust engine mapping based on track conditions, riding style, or weather, loose sand, hard-packed dirt, wet conditions, or deep ruts. Different maps can completely change how the motorcycle delivers power. Instead of visiting a dealership or connecting expensive tuning equipment, riders can make adjustments in just a few minutes. The bike also includes launch control, helping riders achieve smoother and more consistent starts off the gate. In motocross, a great start can determine the entire race. Having technology that increases consistency gives riders a genuine competitive advantage. And perhaps the best part is that these electronic features never feel complicated. Everything is designed to be simple, intuitive, and race-focused. By this point, it's becoming obvious that Yamaha wasn't trying to reinvent the YZ250F. Instead, they refined nearly every area that matters most. The result is a motorcycle that feels faster, more balanced, more predictable, and easier to ride at the limit. But the biggest question still remains: how does the new 2027 YZ250F compare with rivals like the Honda CRF 250R, KTM 250SXF, Kawasaki KX 250, and Husqvarna FC 250? And more importantly, is it actually worth your money? Now comes the most important question: How does the 2027 Yamaha YZ250F actually compare against its biggest rivals? Because in the 250 motocross class, Yamaha isn't racing alone. It's going head-to-head with some serious competition. We're talking about the Honda CR, F25, OR, KTM 250 SXF, Kawasaki KX25, O, and Husqvarna FC25, Each of these bikes has its own strengths. Some focus on raw power, some focus on lightweight agility, and others focus on cutting-edge electronics. But Yamaha has taken a slightly different approach for 2027. Instead of trying to win in just one category, they've built a balanced machine that performs consistently across every situation. Let's break it down. When it comes to raw top-end power, KTM and Husqvarna still feel extremely aggressive. They deliver explosive acceleration and a very race-focused character. Honda, on the other hand, continues to refine its smooth and linear power delivery. Kawasaki sits somewhere in the middle with strong mid-range punch. But the 2027 YZ250F, it doesn't try to be the most aggressive bike. Instead, it focuses on usable power. Power that is easier to control. Power that helps you maintain traction instead of breaking it loose constantly. And in real motocross racing, that controllability often wins more races than raw horsepower. In terms of handling, Yamaha makes a very strong statement. Thanks to its updated frame geometry and refined rigidity balance, the YZ250F feels incredibly stable in corners, where KTM feels razor sharp, and Honda feels slightly more neutral. The Yamaha strikes a perfect balance between stability and agility. It turns in quickly, but doesn't feel nervous. It holds lines through ruts with confidence, but still allows quick direction changes when needed. That combination makes it one of the most forgiving, high-performance bikes in the class. And forgiveness matters more than most riders realize. Because not every lap is perfect, not every corner is clean, and not every jump lands exactly the way you expect. A bike that helps you recover from mistakes is a bike that makes you faster overall. Now let's talk about suspension feel. The KYB suspension system continues to be one of Yamaha's strongest advantages, compared to KTM's WP suspension, which can feel slightly firm on rough terrain, and Honda's setup, which prioritizes balance, but sometimes lacks plushness. The YZ250F delivers a very controlled and predictable ride quality. It absorbs small chatter extremely well. It stays composed in braking bumps, and it maintains traction when exiting corners under hard acceleration. For riders who spend long days on the track, this reduces fatigue significantly, and less fatigue means more consistent lap times. One of the biggest standout features still remains the hydraulic clutch. This is a game changer for Yamaha riders. Compared to cable clutches found in some competitors, the hydraulic system offers lighter lever, feel more consistent engagement, better performance in long motos, less maintenance over time. It may not sound dramatic on paper, but on the track, especially during longer races, your left hand will absolutely notice the difference. Now let's talk about electronics and usability. The Yamaha Power Tuner app continues to be one of the most practical tools in motocross. While KTM offers advanced onboard mapping systems, Yamaha's smartphone-based tuning is simple, fast, and extremely effective. You can adjust engine character in minutes depending on track conditions. That level of convenience gives riders a real advantage, especially amateurs and weekend racers who don't have access to professional tuning setups. So, what are the downsides? No bike is perfect, and the 2027 YZ250F still has a few trade-offs. First, while its power delivery is extremely usable, riders looking for explosive, arm-pulling acceleration might prefer KTM or Husqvarna. Second, Yamaha's styling and design updates are more evolutionary than revolutionary. It doesn't look radically different from previous models. And finally, pricing is expected to remain in the premium range, which may put it slightly above some competitors in certain markets. The 2027 Yamaha YZ250F doesn't try to be the most extreme bike in the class. Instead, It focuses on something far more important: balance. It refines what already worked, improves what riders were asking for, and delivers one of the most complete 250 cubic centimeter motocross packages we've seen so far. It may not shout the loudest on paper, but on the track, it speaks through consistency, control, and confidence. And in motocross, that combination is what separates good bikes from great ones. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think the 2027 Yamaha YZ250F is the best 250 motocross bike of the year? Or do you think KTM, Honda, or Kawasaki still dominate the class? Drop your opinion in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want more in-depth motorcycle reviews like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Because next up, we're breaking down even more insane 2027 machines you don't want to miss. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.